Hi, I'm Robert Lamb of Wow Ministry. Do you know that our Creator created the animals for certain purposes? Some of which are food for humans. However, unlike what most people believe, according to the scriptures, many animals are not created for human consumption. Many times people will pull out a verse out of context to say, this makes it okay to eat any animals. Is this true? Let's look into the scriptures and see the way of the word. We will be using a restored name KJV, and we'll be in Leviticus 11. What we're going to do is there's going to be many parts to this. It will be like a series, I guess. And we're going to start with our Creator's menu. What He says is food and what it isn't food. And then in future videos, we will touch on these little one-verse doctrines that people believe makes it okay to no longer go by the Creator's menu. But first, let's study the Creator's menu. In Leviticus 11, verse 1. By the way, I'll post the notes underneath this video, so I'd just soon you not be looking at me, be reading the notes and study for yourself. Leviticus 11, verse 1. And Yahweh spake unto Moses and Aaron, saying unto them, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, These are the beasts which ye shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Most see this and believe this means that this is only for the ancient Israelites. However, this is not the case. Remember, a mixed multitude came out of Egypt with the Israelites. We can read that in Exodus 12:38. This is why Yahweh said, There is one law for both the natural born and the stranger that dwells among you. Exodus 12:49, Leviticus 24:22, and Numbers 15 and 16 and 29. We are all supposed to be grafted into Israel, just like these people were. We read this in Romans 10 and Ephesians 2, for example. Leviticus 11 and 3. Whatsoever parteth the hoof, and is cloven-footed, and cheweth the cud among beasts, that shall ye eat. Now, notice he first tells us how to recognize these creatures, and this is Yahweh speaking. He tells us how to recognize these creatures by their physical attributes. Then goes on to give us examples. Pretty detailed when you consider that most believers think it's all for naught. But there's reasons that Yahweh does this. Okay? Verse 4. Nevertheless, these shall ye not eat of them that chew the cud, or of them that divide the hoof, as the camel. Because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. And the coney, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. Okay, so what is a coney? Strong says chiffon, a species of rock rabbit. Brown's Driver's Brig says that it's a rock badger or a hyrax. So, which is it? Is it a rabbit or a badger? Well, it turns out that it's a type of badger that some folks in the old days called a rock rabbit. And in my notes, I posted a link where you can go see a picture of what one of these look like. And it's a badger, okay? Verse 6, And the hare, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. Now, we usually think of a hare as being a rabbit. However, they do not chew the cud. To be honest, this is an unknown animal, probably either extinct or known by a different name today. With that said, a rabbit is unclean, as we shall see later. I would also note that most people think these animals are unclean because of their environment or by what they eat. However, that is not what we are to go by. For instance, a chicken is clean for food, but it will eat nasty things. A rabbit, as we shall see in a little bit, is unclean, even though he's a vegetarian. What makes these animals clean or unclean is the design of their flesh. That's why he says don't eat their flesh. It's their flesh that's the problem, not their environment. This is why our Creator goes on to give us such great attributes to what to look for and examples of what kind of animals, for example, because He doesn't say every single animal that He created here, okay? He gives us things to look for and examples of those animals. Verse 7, And the swine, though he divide the hoof and be cloven foot, yet he cheweth not the cud, he is unclean to you. Of their flesh shall ye not eat, and their carcass shall ye not touch. They are unclean to you. This verse is not popular, but you either believe the words of Elohim, or you let your belly and personal lust be your Elohim. You cannot serve two masters. Notice it says, their carcass shall you not touch. This is talking, it's okay to have a pot-bellied pig as a pet. I don't know why you'd want one, but it's not a sin to have this until you eat him. That's where we start having a problem. That's what this word carcass means. It's talking about a dead animal, okay? Because you don't eat live ones. Well, mostly. Verse 9. These shall ye eat of all that are in the waters. Whatsoever hath fins and scales in the waters, in the seas, and in the rivers, them shall you eat. Fins and scales. And all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, of that move in the waters, and of the living thing which is in the waters, they shall be an abomination unto you. That means detestable. Verse 11, They shall even be an abomination to you. You shall not eat their flesh, but ye shall have their carcasses in abomination. Whatsoever hath no fins nor scales in the waters, that shall be an abomination unto you. This means no catfish, shrimp, lobster, crab, oysters, clams, this sort of thing. Verse 13, And these are they which shall be an abomination among the fowls. They shall not be eaten. They are an abomination. The eagle, the ossifrage, the osprey, and the vulture, and the kite after his kind. Every raven after his kind. The owl, and the nighthawk, and the cuckoo, and the hawk after his kind. And the little owl, and the cormorant, and the gray owl, and the swan, and the pelican, and the gier eagle, and the stork, the heron after her kind, and the lapwing, and the bat. All fowls that creep, going on all fours, shall be an abomination to you. These are all fowls that are unclean, which all have claws and are birds of prey, or scavengers. I had a lady one time say, well, John the Baptist, he ate bugs because he was eating grasshoppers. And I took her to these next two verses, Leviticus 11:21 and 22. Yet these may ye eat of every flying, creeping thing that goeth upon all fours, which have legs above their feet, to leap withal upon the earth. Even these of them ye may eat, the locust after his kind, the bald locust after his kind, and the beetle after his kind, and the grasshopper after his kind. Now, this word beetle, it's not a beetle like we think of a beetle, okay? It says in Brown Driver's Brig it's a kind of locust, a leaping creature. Now remember, we have to go back to the description that Yahweh gives us of these animals. He says in verse 21 that they're flying, that they go upon all fours, they have legs above their feet, which means they have jointed legs, and they hop or leap. Now, I don't know about you, but the only beetle that I've ever seen that fits that description would be like Ringo Starr at a Coke party. This is talking about a cricket, folks. It's a cricket. And it amazes me how people say, ooh, a cricket and a grasshopper? Yeah, you know. But yet they'll turn around and eat pork, which he says is an abomination. Go figure. Verse 23. But all other flying, creeping things which have 4 feet shall be an abomination unto you. This word abomination means detestable. You know, same word that he uses for homosexuality. And for these ye shall be unclean. Whosoever toucheth the carcass of them shall be unclean until evening. And whosoever beareth aught of the carcass of them shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening. The carcass of every beast which divideth the hoof, and not cloven-footed, nor cheweth the cud, are unclean unto you. Every one that toucheth them shall be unclean. And whatsoever goeth upon his paws among all manner of beasts that go on all four, those are unclean unto you. Whosoever touch their carcass shall be unclean until evening. Okay, this is why I said that rabbits, are unclean. We see here that nothing that goes on paws is food. This includes rabbits, squirrels, raccoons, possums. All these different animals, they're not food. Yahweh say any animals with paws and goes on all fours. It's not hard to understand, folks. Verse 28. And he that beareth the carcass of them shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening. They are unclean unto you. These also shall be unclean unto you among the creeping things that creep up on the earth, the weasel, and the mouse, and the tortoise after his kind, and the ferret, and the chameleon, and the lizard, and the snail, and the mole. None of these reptiles and all these animals here, they're not food, folks. They're not skins neither. You don't make caps and belts and stuff out of them either. And upon whatsoever any of them, when they are dead, doth fall, it shall be unclean. Whatever it falls on shall be unclean, whether it be a vessel of wood, or raiment, or skin, or sack, whatsoever vessel it be, wherein any work is done, it must be put into water, and shall be unclean until the evening. So it shall be cleansed. And every earthen vessel whereinto any of them falleth, whatsoever is in it shall be unclean, and ye shall break it. This is talking about pottery. I assume that crock pot is pottery. I don't know that for a fact, but I'll tell you what, if I bought a crock pot from someone and it had pork cooked in it, I'd bust it. They're not that expensive, folks. But notice how important this is to our Creator. Not only do you not eat them, but he says don't touch their carcass, and goes so far as to tell you if it falls on your items of work items and stuff, you're supposed to wash it. If it's pottery, then you got to break it. And everything whereupon any part of their carcass falleth shall be unclean, whether it be oven or ranges for pots, they shall be broken down, for they are unclean, and shall be unclean unto you. Nevertheless, a fountain or pit wherein there is plenty of water shall be clean, but that which touches their carcass shall be unclean. And any part of their carcass fall upon a sowing seed which is to be sown, it shall be clean. But if any water be upon the seed, and any part of their carcass fall upon it, it shall be unclean. And if any beast of which ye may eat die, he that toucheth the carcass thereof shall be unclean until evening. And he that eateth of the carcass of it shall wash his clothes, and be unclean until the evening. He shall also bear the carcass of it shall wash his clothes, and be unclean until the evening. And every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth shall be an abomination, it shall not be eaten. You don't eat these things. Whatsoever goeth upon his belly, like snakes, whatsoever goeth upon all fours, or whatsoever hath more feet among all creeping thing that creep upon the earth, like a centipede, them ye shall not eat, for they are an abomination. That also would mean like a spider, scorpions, stuff like this. You shall not make yourselves abominable with any creeping thing that creepeth, neither shall ye make yourselves unclean with them, that ye should be defiled thereby. For I am Yahweh your Elohim. Ye shall therefore sanctify yourselves, and ye shall be holy, for I am holy, or set apart. Neither shall ye defile yourselves with any manner of creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. See, we are supposed to be set apart to Yahweh. That is what holy means. And all the pagans were eating these unclean animals. As believers, we're supposed to be different. Paul wrote in 2 Corinthians 6:14 through 18, Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers, for what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion has light with darkness? And what concord has Messiah with Belial? Or what part hath he that believeth with the infidel? And what agreement hath the temple of Yahweh with idols? For ye are the temple of the living Elohim. As Yahweh hath said, I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. Wherefore come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith Yahweh, and touch not the unclean thing, what we just read about, and I will receive you. And I will be a father unto you, and you shall be my sons and daughters, saith Yahweh the Almighty. There's nothing new under the sun, folks. Leviticus 11:45. For I am Yahweh that bringeth you up out of the land of Egypt, to be your Elohim. You shall therefore be holy, for I am holy. This is the law of the beast, and of the fowl, and of the living creature that moveth in the waters, and every creature that creepeth upon the earth, to make a difference between the unclean and the clean, and between the beast that may be eaten and the beast that may not be eaten. This word law means instructions. And that's what we just read. He's saying this is the instructions of what is clean and unclean. There's a lot of detail here as what to do when you come in contact with dead carcasses of these unclean animals. Why would he make all these points and use such detail if he knew someday it would no longer matter? Doesn't make much sense, does it? What really makes me sick is that many Christian printers will envelope our Creator's word in pigskin leather, something he calls an abomination. It's time to leave religion, the doctrines of man, and go the way of the Word.